There's a real gap in building a development company, an E&P company that is really poised for what the future is bringing with respect to tech. And so our thesis is really built around natural gas and the AI boom. And it's not that we don't have plenty of it, but the access to it.
It's like the whole concept of, where is natural gas, but also where is a viable data center? Where can you construct that?
AI centers don't exist without fuel. And I think that's often missed. And that brings us to the importance of your area of expertise, which is the land. And that creates a whole new bag of issues.
You got people problems, you got airship problems, complicated title, complicated legal descriptions.
Where the land part fits into all that is massive. Like, that's a huge part that just honestly doesn't get enough light.
Land insights, market trends, industry experts. Welcome to the Land Department Podcast, the state of land and energy as we see it.
Brent, there's not enough content out there on data centers right now, so
it's just groundbreaking discussions here. There's some new things coming. We're going to talk about it today, and you might not know much about it. But, Google data centers.
Yeah,
after this podcast,
you'll get there, right?
No, I think in reality, it's so hard to cut through the noise and figure out what to focus on and what. So hopefully this is a valuable conversation for people of hey, this is the reality of what's happening on the ground.
Yeah.
Yes. So much of the talk has been what it's going to do and what it can do. It's all in capabilities, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's talking about AI capabilities, and there's a lot of data center press and things out there as with respect to the effect it has on the community and the surface and things like that. But we really wanted to dive into how are landmen involved and how are E&P companies involved in this kind of whole concept of the power generation behind the meter power. And man, when you put things out there and you're thinking about content, Peter just popped up. And didn't know Peter from anything, and reached out to him. He was very kind to join us, and he's got a really unique perspective in the sense of he and his team are building an E&P company really geared toward providing that kind of behind the meter power and product to source that. And he's got a very unique perspective because he's starting from today, as opposed to other companies that have maybe been in business 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. So we're going to talk about all that stuff, and God knows what we'll squirrel off on, but that's the fun part about doing your own podcast. It can be whatever the hell we want it to be. So Peter,
Squirrels
welcome, man.
Thanks, man. Squirrels welcome. I like it. It's a good start.
Well, we're landmen. You know how that goes. You kind of start talking a little bit, but we've kind of laughed. You're in the land game now. You're more of a landman than you thought you were planning on being, right?
Yeah, there's been a lot of conversation. We're actually very involved right now in acquisition, and it's a big part of our business, obviously, as we expand. Our thesis is really built around natural gas and the AI boom. And it's not that we don't have plenty of it, but the access to it. And so there's a lot of balls in the air, so to speak, or complications to, all of that business. So happy to be here and talk about that kind of thing and how it relates to AI centers don't exist without fuel. And I think that's often missed in the public eye, but where the land part fits into all that is massive. That's a huge part that just honestly doesn't get enough light. So I'm interested to talk about that.
Yeah. Maybe before we start, just tell us about you touched on the thesis, but tell us about when you guys stood up PetroVybe. What's the game plan? When did you recognize that's what you wanted to do, and maybe just talk about that overall strategy that maybe makes you guys different from your traditional or normal E&P company?
Yeah, so I had a background in management consulting for about 10 years. Had a boutique shop, and I went to help a friend. I was basically a business fixer, going to struggling or legacy businesses that were looking for a way to find that next life cycle, right? And I really fell in love with the oil and gas industry in that work. I had a friend who wanted some of my help in doing that, and so I went and helped him on his development company, and that really put me in a position to say, hey man, there's like all the things I learned in doing that. I was like, there's a real gap in building a development company, an E&P company that is really poised for what the future is bringing with respect to tech. And so how you do that, and it's a complex, you got to raise capital, you got to build the company, and you got to do that in a way that, interestingly, my thesis is built on how Amazon built their business, which is
That's
a lot
interesting.
and it's a lot built around this idea of Shell and BP and Exxon, all the super majors. They've all used a growth engine of reinvestment of cash flow. And I think one of the things that I misunderstood early was that the decline curve was unique to oil and gas. It's actually not. Decline curves are unique to every business. If you aren't growing, you're retracted.
Yeah.
Nobody, ARRs, like let's take a software company, for example, that sells subscriptions. You don't keep 100% of your subscriptions year to year. You're going to lose 30% of them. That's a decline curve.
Yeah.
So
you better be adding 40.
That's right. To grow,
Yeah.
you have to net grow. You have to add, if I want 30% growth, I have to actually grow 60% just to cover what's going to lose, what I'm going to lose. So there's a lot of similarity. And I think being able to understand how to grow and then connecting around the demand that is going to drive the ability to grow, that's where the PetroVybe thesis came from, particularly as it relates to AI, data centers, and the need for natural gas, and really that challenge of access to natural gas. Not like we don't have a lot of it. I mean, it's prices still are terrible in the Permian. So
I guess it's like the whole concept of where is natural gas, but also where is a viable data center? Where can you construct that? I mean, what I read, this morning press, it got to -10 or something like that in the Permian, with natural gas, right? Or something crazy. So, I mean, it's practically, it's more than free gas, right? But
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, but it's like, but then you have all the complications of all the other 40 things that have to line up for a viable data center to be constructed. So I can imagine for you guys, like, how do you find that place where you can get those viable, meaningful, long-term natural gas assets in a place that you can actually build and construct, or get that product into a pipeline that feeds a data center? Like, how do y'all go about that?
Yeah, so you have to be sensitive to the time and the timeline and the time value of money. It's still the challenge for the Permian specifically. Like if you're working that for a data center play, which I can't remember the name of the company. There is development out there, but it's still difficult. And the reason why is because the infrastructure isn't there. The whole problem with the Permian from a gas perspective is the infrastructure just doesn't support the supply. So it's trapped. And the more valuable commodity coming out of that area that the infrastructure is in place for is the oil. And so you're kind of in this walled up, albatross of I can't get it out and I can't even hardly store it. And so that's why they've been flexing on, regulations with respect to flaring and things like that. I mean, it's certainly been an improvement, but there's just a lot of challenges, complications. But you really have to go, because time is so critical, you have to go where the infrastructure is. And that's where you get into this idea of knowing, okay, where do I need to be? Which is why we're in South Texas and East Texas. We can compete better because we're small. We can also, we have access to where the supply is not trapped, where it can actually get out for a profit. And that brings us to the importance of your area of expertise, which is the land. And that creates a whole new bag of issues because you guys know better than I do. East Texas is very unique.
It's something, all right. Yeah, I mean, it comes with its own challenges, right? I mean, where your problems in the Permian Basin are B2B, oriented, right? It's contractual
Yep.
terms, leasehold ownership, all those complications, right? Severances of horizontal ownership. You go to East Texas, it's person to be.
That's right.
It's people to be. You got
Yep.
people problems, you got airship problems, complicated title, complicated legal descriptions,
Right.
much smaller parcels. So, you can get by with a dozen or 2 dozen tracts of land in West Texas for a pretty decent asset. You may need 200 in East Texas. And so that's 200 instances or 600 instances of some variable that you got to navigate. So, I mean, there are challenges from the land standpoint, but, you're absolutely right. It's this kind of interesting observation. You got endless natural gas out there in the Permian. And could we build gathering and all that stuff? Absolutely. But you got to have a financial incentive to build gathering. You know what I mean? And money.
Yep.
And then you have to have time to do that. I mean, we've been talking about natural gas takeaway capacity in the Permian Basin for 10 years now.
Yep.
It's like we have all this products there, but the market just doesn't support it. But the data center demand, I mean, when you read press, right, on data centers, it's going to affect the everyday consumer. It's going to affect the community and your electricity prices and all this, that, and the other. Well, that's going to put a lot of pressure on business to find a way to get that product.
Massive.
That's going to be the thing. And I think we all know, and I think you guys are in a great position as far as how you're looking at it, to be like, all right, how can I get in this game? How can I be a data center forward kind of operator, but also be positioned to capitalize maybe 5 or 10 years from now when that infrastructure builds out to meet that demand, to satisfy the cries of the public, right? Which are justified.
You're 100%, and it's a friction conversation. Like nobody wants to be the billions that it would really take to free the trapped gas, so to speak, in the Permian. It's friction, and it's high cost friction, and that's where the difficulty comes in. I mean, they have a pipeline coming on, a new pipeline coming on in the Permian for gas. If I read this right, I want to say it's in June. Anyway, that it's already spoken for. Like, and it's apparently it's not even making a blip. So again, it's not that those things aren't happening, but they're only going to do those things when people can profit from it. It's all, an issue of friction, but that's why you're seeing big tech players make these acquisitions, and they're literally becoming power companies. They're becoming producing companies. They're buying into the supply chain, and at some pretty interesting multiples, bringing M&A activity and values back up in the E&P space. So I think if I'm a landman and I'm sitting, in this space looking at where the opportunity is, I'm really following the businesses that have the money. It's always follow the money. Where is the money going? Where's the money? Where is it going to get to profits fast enough? And that is where there's the least friction. And I think if I'm a landman, I'm chuckling. I'm going, you really think East Texas is lack of friction? Well, it's all relative, right? And so, there's still South Texas, which the Gulf Coast Basin. I just read yesterday, I can't remember which super major it was, but big discovery in the Gulf of America, and bringing some renewed interest and energy, probably even capital to that discovery. And so I think, as I'm thinking about what are we doing, it's going to be the path with the least friction. And Texas still is the best answer for that. But you're seeing that up in the Northeast a little bit as well. It's not like Pennsylvania is off the chart here. They have a play in this as well. And so I don't know. I think it's a bright future for, if I'm a landman as an example, I think it's a bright future for a lot of opportunity. You just gotta pay attention to where you need to be, where you can leverage your relationships on both sides of the fence, right? Knowing the landowners, but also knowing the people inside the industry to be able to put deals together.
Well, I guess that's kind of a good segue into, how you guys strategize, right? I mean, we need product now, right? If you're thinking of this as being a solution to, data center developers,
Yeah.
right? And everybody, all landmen love, field guys love the green fielding, right? We love putting a
For
project
sure.
together, but there's an a significant amount of risk to that, and capital,
Yeah.
and time. So I would imagine, like, what's y'all's strategy for, building out this asset base? Is it M&A? It's obviously you got to be looking at existing assets with some upside. How do y'all go about evaluating that? And I guess the second part to that, to really bring it home, is, are you guys going about this in collaboration with data center companies? How do y'all collaborate on that? Or are you just going to where if you build it, they will come kind of
Yeah.
mentality, I guess?
So no, that's a good question. Like the strategy right now, we have a 10-year look forward view. So we're thinking in terms of 10 years. We've been we were pre-revenue in 24, 25. We had revenue, but we were even a negative. We were still raising capital small. We made some acquisitions to give us a better footprint. We have some terrific partners. We've really done the grinded out capital raising. I'm on calls most of every day, and I talk to every partner before they come on. That's really critical that we and most of our partners are accredited nature. It's not institutional money, although we also blended that in. We have an excellent bank that has come alongside of us, and they're technically our largest investor, if you want to look at it that way. And so we've started to blend in that institutional capital, but you have to have a reasonable footprint in order to have a baseline to continue to assemble the assets that you need to assemble that can scale. And you need capital to do that. And that is what we're in the middle of right now to really give ourselves position. We actually have really improved our position. I mean, we're small, right? We've got now what I would consider, we have more proved reserves than capital that we've raised. So that's a pretty good milestone. We've been very efficient tax.
That helps with raising more capital.
Oh man, it's a big deal.
You got to show you can execute. Yeah.
Yes, and we have. We've definitely grown from. We're about a 45x on our proved reserves over where we were a year ago, which is massive. But we got a lot of work to do. I mean, we've turned EBITDA positive, but that's a quarter-to-quarter conversation when you're as small as us.
Yeah.
But the strategy, if you think of it at tenure, it's assembling these assets so that we can be in the conversation to drive, hey, look, we have a footprint that we've built that fits your needs. Am I directly talking to the data center builders right now? No. We're actually having conversations around those people, but we have to create some legitimacy in the asset base and show that scale is there, or that we have the beginning parts of that. Then we can look into the second part of the strategy, which is how do we actually bring those two things together so that we can make them part of the story. But here's the best part about it. The hedge is in, look, natural gas is a utility fuel source it's utilitarian by nature. It's not like we're into something that people don't need or don't have, right?
Yeah.
Or aren't going to need. So we have, let's say the data center thing slows down or whatever, we've got a built-in hedge with the fact that the utilities still need natural gas to run what is a very inefficient turbine at today's stage. We need some innovation there too.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of inefficiency in the infrastructure. That needs improvement. There's a lot of work that has to happen, not just from fuel development on this E&P, at the very front of the supply chain, but all along the way. And these tech companies are learning that, hey, there's a lot more complexity to this than we can't just flash cash, and we've got to become more experts. And that's where you're seeing them actually hire energy executives and consultants to help them get more knowledgeable and be smart about how they engage, because it's not going to be enough to rely on the existing utility power infrastructure to power what is coming. And that's, again, the really important knowledge is to understand that and then to follow the money. Where is it going in order to make that possible?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, you can start to see that realization sink in, we work for data center developers. We do siting ourselves, putting projects together that are actual, you talk about timelines and things like, you don't have time to have a busted site in the data center game.
No.
What you also don't have time is like to figure out if you've got access to power. You're starting to see them look at things. You nailed it. Look at things from a power perspective. They understand and know that, hey, I've got to come to the table with a solution, right?
Yes, and I mean that's true, Brent. And in that note, I mean, in that context that you're talking about, it's real important to note that they're already the tech companies are already hitting compute limitations, not just from power, but also their own hardware limitations, to the extent that you are now seeing tokenization. Like, I have credits. So I'll give you an example on a really practical level. Brett, do you guys use AI in your business, like in your day to day? Like how?
Yeah.
Okay.
Claude.
Yeah, Claude. We use Claude. We use ChatGPT, but we are actually experimenting, to say the least. I don't know. I just got a thumbs up.
That was from Claude. He said, "Thank you for the plug."
Let's go. Right. He's listening. He's listening.
Oh, he is.
It's scary that we're saying he as that.
I know.
But Victor is actually an integrative AI tool inside our Slack. So we have like 32 or so employees on the team, and at PetroVybe we have a lot of outside partners. Anyway, Victor is an app inside Slack. Victor bills me based on our utilization now. So I have limitations. In other words, it's pay to play. That's already hitting the business work. And that's in large part to get the monetization right, but it's also big based on the limitations. And all the things you just mentioned about some of the headwinds that we all face and trying to put it and not having the time misses that we could have in putting a package together, for example, we have really narrow margins for error. And so it's interesting because there's a ton of opportunity, but you got to be razor sharp and accurate in the opportunity that you're pursuing. So.
Yeah. I mean, so as you're looking at, building out assets and building out potential infrastructure or well, I mean, I don't know, I get this, you necessarily have to build it out, but you're looking in areas, South Texas, for instance. What is your outlook? I'm going to pivot a little bit here, but like, what's your outlook on, we got LNG facilities coming, into operation on a pretty regular basis now, right? There's been significant, we're starting to finally see, I remember 10 years ago, there was all the talk, right? You're starting to see that it takes 10 years for those projects to come in line. Well, like, I wonder as you guys are a startup, right? And, you start talking about the things, where you want to start talking about positive cash flow. You want to start showing a profit. How do you balance, or do you even care? When it boils down to it, you're building a business. If you're in South Texas and there's a demand for your product from an LNG perspective versus potentially for data center customers, is that a factor? I mean, we're using data center as a driver of demand, but for you guys, do you care? Or is kind of part of your key strategy or maybe even your fundraising process saying, hey, we're a data center forward kind of customer is what we're looking for? Or is it indifferent to you guys?
Yeah, right now we're focused on traditional buyers. It's the enterprises, the Kinder Morgans, the
midstream company. Yeah.
Yes, the midstream. Kinder Morgan just sold. I just read this morning. Kinder Morgan sold it was a half a $1 billion pipeline transaction.
Oh, geez, anyway. No, I didn't see that this morning.
Yeah, I hope I'm. Anyway,
there's news every day.
I know. Fact check me, but ETC, we have great midstream buying partners, and they are really critical in the in this conversation, and they own the infrastructure. So when we talk about this in context of our vision, when we become a different kind of player if we earn the right to sit at that table. We're in the process of trying to earn our right to do it. So it is very critical for us to say, hey, look, like, we love our midstream partners. They buy from us. We're relatively small to a lot of their other partners. So we understand where we are at the in the supply chain linkage here. we see that there may be ways for us to work with them and partner with them to maybe tap into that in a more profit forward way in the future. But I think I know we're a few years from being able to do that, and we see it as really position ourselves for being a player where we could consider, hey, do you larger players want to make an acquisition directly to the fuel source? Do you want to do a joint venture partner where we bring infrastructure, utility, and fuel all together? Could we be a catalyst for that? Since we're the fuel sources, that's something that I see us as more visionary around those ideas, and just seeing the demand and making sure that, look, we know ETC and Pioneer and all, or not Pioneer, who am I thinking of? Anyway, let's just take ETC as an example. Great partner of ours. We see them as having access into infrastructure to do some of these things. How can we help participate that in as we drive more supply? So first, earn our right to be there. Second, talk to partners about how can we all come together and maybe build infrastructure, a whole supply chain that will connect directly to data center demand. And that's the path that the vision affords. You first have to understand that the demand is driven there and that we can actually be part of that conversation in a humble, real way is where we are right now. Because right now our production level is fairly insignificant to most of those players, but man, there's a real path towards that. So God willing, and he is often willing, if you just give it up to him, we will be able to be into those earned positions later as we've taken the path we're in now. I don't know if that really answered the question.
No,
but
it does. It was a
process.
hard question. There's kind of a lot there. We're talking about people sleep on the fact that this is a brand new industry.
Yeah.
Right. The oil and gas and natural gas business has been around 100 years, right? And it's highly refined. As a landman, you look back 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when this whole concept of alternatives really became a central, talking point and a factor in like a landman's career, and even E&P companies, didn't have to deal with a solar project or anything else, or a battery storage thing. They didn't have to know a damn thing about it. And so now it's like we're all trying to evolve and understand how we can shift our entire thinking of, how we produce product, where we produce it, what's going to drive the value and demand of it, how we transport it, where we transport it to, right? Our whole existence is, geared toward produce here, transport there in product, right?
Yeah.
But now you're talking about the entire state of Texas, the entire country needing this supply that the infrastructure just isn't built for. So, I wonder, you hit on it earlier, if you're going to start to see some of the big hyperscalers buy a small E&P just for that expertise, buy into a midstream company, right? Is Meta going to be in the midstream business in 5 years? Right?
Mitsubishi acquired Aethon.
Yep.
You see a level of that already at the fuel side, but the rest of the supply chain, if they don't know it now, they're going to learn. Microsoft last year engaged on 3 Mile Island and getting that gin back up for specifically to run their data centers. There's access to that happening. I think what's going to be interesting is how deep do they go? And I think that's the question you're asking. And if to kind of we've been talking a lot of macro and even kind of flexing in and out of that, but I think if I'm a landman, like, what can I do with all this? And I think that the answer is being educated specifically as a landman. You're in a lot of ways, you're broker of deals, right? So, that's really essentially a big part of it's everything, really.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make deals happen and based on opportunity. I need to be acutely educated on where the trends are in my area. So how can I take the macro trends? So what I would do is I'd get into Claude, or for me it's Victor, but that's because I'm in Slack. So, but it's Claude or ChatGPT, and I would get in and say, okay, look, help me understand the macro trends at a very basic level. inside, this is my job. You have to, one of the important things about AI is always giving it context in your prompts. So you want, and get past it, you got to do a paid model. But I would say have a conversation with your paid version of chat or Claude and give it the context to say, hey, look, here's the macro trends, or tell me the macro trends, test them, get an idea of, okay, I have a baseline. What's the application for me locally? Here's what I know locally. Work with Claude to help your mind get centered around what are my macro trends and my micro trends, my local trends, we'll call it. What is it that I could do to take advantage? Where are the opportunities for me as a landman to really drive value for my audience? Specifically, do I have, a few people that I work with or a large sect of people? That's what I would do to try to strategize. What is my future, let's say, over the next 3 months? What's my future over the next 12 months? What's my future over the next 24 months? And then give me, after you get your analysis done with Claude and you get some revelation through that, for me, I'd be praying about it and giving it up to my Jesus. That's what I would do.
Yeah, bring them to me. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would be putting it before the Lord, but it's good practical work to do that sort of planning, and then saying, okay, what are my steps that I need to take in the next 30 days and now this week that I could do to go and capitalize on that? And then you're basically putting together a plan as a landman to say, this is how I'm going to go. Because I wouldn't set any goal if I don't really know what I'm working with. And I may say, look, I've been a landman for 30 years. I know what I'm working with. Well, that's great. Why don't you test it against the macro trends to really figure out how you can optimize what you know to be your opportunity? Either way, you can actually use AI in your daily work and in your planning work as a landman to figure out what can you do to drive the most value for your audience and ultimately for yourself. So,
yeah, your shareholders or whatever it might be. I mean, we've
Right.
seen that trend. I mean, we touched on it earlier. You've got negative gas in West Texas, but we're busier than we've been in 10 years on natural gas projects in East Texas and eastern states and things like that, because there's a coming demand. Everybody knows it's going to be needed, and it touches on that infrastructure as well.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
it's and then as far as we go, and you guys will certainly get there because you're very vocal about the why you guys are doing what you're doing in the natural gas business. But it's been an interesting evolution and educational process for us working with data center companies, right?
Yeah, I mean, haven't you guys yet? I'm interested. I don't know if your audience is that I'm interrupting, but like what are you seeing as your recent experience with that? Like, let's drill into that a little bit more.
Man, so it's like anything, right? You follow the money, right? And generally when there's a lot of money somewhere, there's people in that business that have no business doing what they're doing, right?
Yep.
In certain components they're very skilled in certain aspects. Maybe they have access to money, maybe they have a grand idea, maybe they've got technology just pushing that you can't help but get involved. But once you get into any business, you start to realize what you don't know, right?
Yeah, oh my
and
gosh.
and what and sometimes we do a lot of education to our data center clients and renewables clients in general, and it's all in the form of like cautionary tales, right? It's like Jesus teaching principles, I can tell you things, but I can tell you a relatable story, and that's going to sink in. And so we get involved early on because data center company bought some site, didn't have a clue about their mineral exposure, didn't have access or locked in agreements, or didn't take seriously that behind the meter power component of natural gas, was behind on the interconnection queue, dumped a ton of money in a big multiple on some land, but had a dumpster fire beneath it. Didn't have, they were backed in they spent $60 million on some site, didn't have right of way to get to the overhead utility.
Wow.
So it's things like that. It's like the cart before the horse thing, uninsurable because they had a dumpster fire for, leasehold, oil and gas leasehold rights and 200 mineral owners under the project. So we get involved, it's all the other things. It's easy to go buy dirt. Is it constructible? Is it insurable? Can you get in the interconnection queue? Do you have power? Do you have, right of way in and out? All those little nuanced things that kind of the landman lives in, especially on the field side of the business, and on the surface land side of the business, even at an E&P level, those skills are highly transferable. You just have different levers, right? Pulling on the why or the when you need to do something. So that's how we've gotten involved. That's how a lot of our, oil and gas companies, every significant, major has, alternatives or a new energies group. And those companies, chase the thing, right? It was CCS and now it's geothermal. And now some of them are, they're combining geothermal and CCS with a data center partner because they're also combining that with their excess natural gas production, or they're using it as a hedge. Hey, I can hedge, a certain percentage of my production in the Haynesville or in somewhere for 15 years tied to this data center project. And so
I love that because that's innovation. That's innovation that it comes out of necessity within, like, looking within the resources and footprint we already have. Like it's going back to the whole Permian conversation and just the potential missed opportunity that's occurring before our very eyes. So
well, it's the macro, right? You talked about the macro, like what is my situation? Individually, these types of things don't make sense for me, but when I combine them all, I may be a big company when I start talking about tax credits here, partnership there, hedging my gas there, it maybe starts to make sense, and you see these companies pushing to that. And so it's been interesting for us because we kind of get brought into it from, different sides. It's always interesting. Traditionally, people call us to say, hey, what are terms and, what are leasing terms in this area? Well, now it's like, hey man, what's this? Tell me about a solar project. Tell me about what my leverage, I'm getting hit up every day by a developer here and this and that, educate me. So it's part of the reason why we do these types of podcasts is just to kind of educate on everyone. And it's not some new foreign thing in particular, but generally oil and gas people don't understand utilities, and utility people don't understand oil and gas. Right. Especially on I know, especially on the upstream sides of things. So,
that kind of speaks back to your encouragement as you're educating here is another one I would do is set your AI agent up to send you. I mean, this isn't even new. Google's been able to do this for 10 years, but, put together not really at this level, but put together a daily news feed that you want that's relative to
curated
news that you're not. It's curated. But the cool part about AI is it can give it to you in your language. This is how I think and talk. Can you help me? Like, for me, I need like 10 bullet points and 2 lines, no more than 2 lines. And I want bold stuff like that. Actually matters for your own ability to absorb information and make it useful. If you find something hook worthy, you're going to go and research it anyway. But that's another way to stay educated and in front of it. If I'm a landman, to kind of take that next level of actually using AI to feed my ability to be an educator, right?
Yeah.
So,
it's a thought companion, right? And
that's a great way to look at it. Yeah,
it's certainly helping people in the oil and gas business understand. And we're all trying to figure it out. And then you got to parse through, like, did it tell me the truth or not? And how does it apply to my business? And only you know that.
That's true. And I would say that, one of the things that's really important, again, another tip, these are things I use to run PetroVybe. Like, I don't have all the answers. For me, it's about knowing the right people and having access to information so I can say, hey there, I got a thumbs up again. So I can stay educated, right? And just be and aware of opportunities. But I think that, ask for intel in the space that you're not in. What is going on the bridge between, if you don't understand utilities very much, have some of your feed of education be on that. If you don't understand what's going on the tech side and what's really driving some of the constraints they have and why they're coming, get news about that, get educated on those feeds, not just your typical, hey, this is I think one of the greatest disservices we do with ourselves in any business, and obviously for Landman is one. I mean, I'm a CEO of an E&P company, so I have my own, blinders. Get outside your blinders. Don't be comfortable with your standard pat services that tell you about your industry. Look for things that are in the gaps, things you don't know, but you don't have to become an expert. What you have to do is understand the connection points. So I want to learn a little bit more about the utility and how that connects to my world in oil and gas. If I'm a landman, I want to get outside my typical landman news feed where I'm comfortable. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable with learning about those new things. That will make you a subject matter expert that will make you a competitive edge that you don't currently have.
Keep you a landman tomorrow. That's our motto over here. Just be a landman tomorrow. Before you know it, you're okay. But, to talk about that, where you are today as your company, right? And y'all have you've got a 10-year plan. Well, part of 10-year plans is contingencies.
Oh my gosh.
Looking at 10 years from now, how could you foresee your vision changing? You know what you want to be today, but all things considered that we've talked about, understanding circumstance, understanding what's happening at the, the high level and where those things might go. How might your company be different, as a natural gas producer in 10 years than maybe it is today, or than maybe you're anticipating?
So I'll talk about a few things here. One is we've already made 2 strategic pivots, and strategic are big. So those are, we had a plan when we started the company, and directionally we were still precisely down that plan pathway, but you have to give yourself structure, but you need flexibility to be able to pivot. You've got to be agile. That's probably not news for anybody, but you have to expect failure in your model. You have to plan for failure in your model. I don't care if you're a landman, an E&P guy, utility, planning for failure is absolutely necessary. You have to have an attitude of humility and transparency in talking to your investors about that. Not just your investors, but your team, and it's a tough balance, because you don't want to lose excitement or enthusiasm, but you can't live there. You have to live in reality land. And so knowing that you're planning for failure, and people say to me, well, I mean, you're actually expecting failure? I'm like,
failure is a strong word.
Oh my gosh. I mean, everybody's like, everyone just tensed up. Us, the audience, it's like
we
failure.
they call it exploration for a reason, right? I mean,
it's mostly failure, actually. So you have to have a framework that is a true framework that's right, but it's also flexible. And for us, the other part that's underpinning that, and I'll answer the go forward part of this question after this, but for us, I'm a disciple of Jesus. I claim Jesus as my King, my Savior and Lord, but there's a practical outflow of that. PetroVybe is actually, I liken it to a kingdom outpost. So we are actually built on a foundation of biblical stewardship. I didn't make up biblical stewardship. Jesus did. I just referred to his word in Matthew 25, the parable of the talents, to actually understand, what does that practically look like? Well, the expectation is that you're stewarding other people's capital. That's what the story it's actually the true core meaning. Jesus is using a biblical best practice, a financial best practice as a metaphor for discipleship. He's still using financial best practice, which is, I'm going to give you guys a talent according to your ability, and you need to go and multiply it. I'm going to go away. I'm going to let you do your job, and I'm going to come back, and you're going to tell me your results. That's essentially what we have adopted, not out of preference first, but out of obedience first. It is our duty to do that, because we have to be truthful and honest about whose capital. Do I have capital in it? Yeah, God's given me some so that I can manage that, and I've put that in. But our other investors have that as well, and so we view it as basically bringing all that capital together to steward, and not just steward based on my view of stewardship, but biblical stewardship, which is really based in the character of men that Paul describes in his letter to Titus, where he talks about men of good character, and he goes through a checklist of character of those men. And so that is not just who we are, but really the why underneath that. And then we have practical cornerstones that PetroVybe has developed out of that are aligned to scripture on a practical level. We don't have time to cover all that today, but I just wanted to note that that is a necessity. I don't know, like I've had people say, hey, look, I live in Texas. Okay. We're in the Bible Belt. I get all that. Like, it's not like somebody's threatening me with a machete I don't have that kind of persecution.
You're not going to get persecuted. Yeah.
Not at that level, but I have people who are like, I don't know if that's really comfortable for me. I'm like, that's okay.
It's just the way that you guys choose to run your business.
That's
you
right.
have to have a compass in any business, whether it's core values, whether it's whatever. You have to be able to look to something to help make decisions, right?
That's right. And in this case, I didn't decide that. I actually just obeyed. That was already a structure that was in place. My job was to basically apply it obediently in our business. And then as you look forward, what does that actually look like? We are going to fail more. We are going to have to pivot more. I don't know what year 7 actually looks like. I'm planning towards it. I know directionally we can get there, God willing. But to your question originally was, what does that look like? I know that it's going to require flexibility and agility for us to do it. And as long as we stay leaning forward, we can still get there.
Yeah, you can make the decisions. And I think that's what you have to do. I think as long as you have that open mind and then have a means and mechanism to be able to make that pivot or that adjustment in a way that's understandable, you know it, you get it, you know the why, and then you can live with the decision because you've got a compass. It's going to be an interesting 10 years, right?
Man.
It really is. And we're all excited for it. I hear all the time, man, what about the AI? And what about this? And man, you're going to need a landman? I was like, a landman is not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Right. There's always going to,
I have two right down the hall. So
you're going to need some more.
We are bullish internally on AI. As a matter of fact, we had a conversation yesterday we have over 2,000 royalty owners. And so, which again, there's some that have way more than that. But anyway, we have over 2,000. Our conversation yesterday was your worst problems, guys. We're building out our systems to support them.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at both of them. I said, look, take the things you hate the most about your job that are the most difficult and have the lowest value. They're just the grindiest, meaning that they have high value to royalty owners, but they're difficult for us to deliver. We're going to solve those with AI. Here's how we're going to do that. And remember, that's because you have much bigger fish to fry in the sense that you have bigger, high value things I need you to focus on. AI is not here to take your job. AI is here to make your job easier so we can do more with you and not hire 5 more landmen. That's one thing I would say, like outside of our business. But from my perspective, like my 2 landmen, like they got a bright future if they just embrace AI and use it to solve their most difficult, grindy problems. So it's all in your perspective.
It is, and it's all in your understanding of how opportunity presents itself and how industry evolves. You think back to the service industry in oil and gas, right? How much economy is created from the service side of the business and in support of oil and gas development, right?
Massive.
You touched on it earlier. Gas turbines aren't as efficient as they could be. How much more could we get out of a properly or an innovated, a modern gas turbine? And we know that in 10 years, it's going to become that much more efficient, right? Some private startup, some small company is going to develop that and enhance that and grow that, right?
Yep.
And so the cycle is going to be very similar to oil and gas as far as just, all the associated stuff that is necessary to build a new natural gas enforce capabilities for power generation behind the meter, God, I've got a 17-year-old son, and we talk about it all the time. Like, what do you do? And he's like, man, I don't know if I want to go to college, Dad. I want to go out and work and do something, and
I love that. Let's do more of that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we talk about what does that look like? And, obviously the land profession changes, obviously how E&P companies and how data center companies are potentially and utility companies are all going to commingle. What's that going to create? What opportunities is that going to create? The amount of right of way that's going to have to be bought in America,
That's an
over the next
interesting
10
topic.
years is significant. And so there's going to be opportunities. It's, are you willing to look, and open your mind and be observant? And are you willing to act? And once you act, are you willing to act with conviction and, jump on that horse and whip and ride? And then, next thing you know, 10 years from now, who knows what it looks like, but we'll all be working. There'll be something there for us.
Yeah. I mean, we need more, I would argue we need more innovation from people who are in roles right now. We need inventors. We need, I'm a big Mike Rowe fan. We need a lot more people that are willing to do. I love what your son's talking about. I really wish, and I'm hopeful that this trend that we have over the last, 10 years of moving away from, college is this, I don't believe that.
The only means for success.
It's not. Go to a trade school. We need more people in trade schools doing technical skills. We need more inventors. We need more people that are not constrained by a wasted 4 years on a business or other kind of degree. I'm not saying that's not right for some people, but I think we've emphasized
Pendulum
that.
went too far the other way. Yeah.
Too far, too much money into it. I mean, people, I love seeing the trade schools develop out. I love seeing we need more tangibility in the things because and we need more people who are interested in doing the work and the craftsmanship and the things of that nature. The electricians, I mean, it's all of that is true. I mean, I love to hear that your son is thinking about that. I just talked to a guy yesterday, one of our new investor partners. They were super excited about his son graduating. He doesn't want to go to college. And they were struggling with this because they're, I'm 53. They're kind of they aren't as old as me, but they are in their 40s. And they're like, we were taught, to go to school. His dad's a doctor. His dad gets it. His dad learned to trade, though. It's a technical trade to be a doctor. That all makes sense. We need more of that. So I didn't know we were going to get in that rabbit trail, but man, I could go on that one for another hour. But
we could. But no, man, Peter, we've covered a lot, and it was great hearing your perspective. We say all the time, you have a strategic advantage, starting right now because your world is built on your circumstance today. And there are a lot of other companies in y'all's position, and it's going to be great for our industry. Really excited to hear your perspective and talk to you a little bit about, just kind of what feeds into, how you look at building out this kind of company. And wish you the best of luck, man. And thank you for joining us today. We, again, maybe we'll get on and talk about the trades next time.
Oh, man.
I could go for a while.
Or we'll talk about my field guys. My field guys and my land guys are my favorite guys to talk to. Like I'm looking for reasons to talk to them every day. So,
well, people would rather talk to a landman than an engineer. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, man. My engineer did not hear that. So I mean, wow. I love them all.
Well, you have to.
Yeah. In my role, I need them all. They're very important. But Brent, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Khalil, it's been a pleasure, man. You guys have been awesome.
Yeah,
so.
Awesome. Well, Peter, if people need to reach out to you, what's the best way?
Yeah, I mean, PetroVybe.com. You can check out our website there, certainly. And I'm at Snell, PSNELL, at PetroVybe with a Y, .com. And feel free to jump on that way. And
all the LinkedIn, all the things.
Yeah, LinkedIn, we're on there. I'm on Instagram. Awesome. I don't know that I'm that big on Instagram. I'm even on Twitter. So, sorry, it's X.
Yeah, we're working on that too. I'm trying to get there, but I can only account for so much social media in my life.
I hear you.
But Peter, thanks, man. Really appreciate you joining us.
Thanks, Peter.
Bye, guys.
Enjoyed today's topic? Follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Learn more at dudley-land.com. See you next episode.